Hi everyone, welcome back to the 21 and Sensory podcast with me, Emily. On today's episode, I have special guest Luke Poulton, who some of you may know as @VeganLuke across social media. Luke is, as his username suggests, vegan. He is 30 years old and is an autistic stand-up comedian who was awarded Essex Comedian of the Year in 2019. And at the time of recording, Luke has over 60,000 followers on TikTok, which is insane, and I'm definitely going to be asking him a bit more about his brilliant videos. So, Luke, do you want to say hi?
Hello.
I hope that wasn't all right intro to you.
That was perfect. Perfect intro.
Cool. So I reached out to Luke via Instagram just to be like, hey, would you want to come on my podcast? Because I really enjoy watching your videos on TikTok, and yeah, I just thought it'd be really nice to have a chat and talk to you about your journey through kind of comedy and your videos and stuff like that. So I guess maybe we could do a little introduction to you and a bit more on your background. So your life right now, what you're up to maybe.
I've been doing stand-up comedy for 5 years. And also with doing that, I've been able to do a lot of talks as well. So I've done a lot of talks for certain companies, just talking about neurodiversity. And before that, I was doing a lot of YouTube, but I was never really talking about autism in videos. It was only every now and again I would talk about certain films. And it's only over the past 5 years that I've sort of done a lot more activism and sort of spoken about autism online to show people that every autistic person is different and that we're not all the same. So, yeah, that's a little intro to me.
No, it's good. It's really interesting that, because I've seen, you've been on, YouTube for a while and you keep up, this, constant stream of, content. And now, with your TikTok as well, you're definitely, you can see the kind of, activism and advocating kind of side of you. I was just wondering, when did you get diagnosed as autistic? Was it something that you had quite young, or was it kind of a late diagnosis? It's always interesting to hear.
So I was diagnosed at 7 years old, but there were things when I was a lot younger. I didn't, my parents realised that I didn't speak until a lot later in life. So when I was 3 years old, there was my speech wasn't that great at that age, and it wasn't until when I was in school that a teacher sort of noticed certain things from me and said to my parents about it, and that's when they decided to go and get me diagnosed and seen by people. So yeah, it was seven years old was very early on for me.
And did you find that, so you were in primary school age 7, so did you find that people understood it in terms of teaching and education? Did you get much support or anything?
I say in primary school it was a bit weird. There were some teachers that would I got treated very, very well in primary school. There was bullying from some people in primary school, but the teachers always treated me well. There was also very nice teachers at my school that would see things that I was sort of special interest in school. So I was very into owls. And then other people would buy me owls and stuff in class and that. So, and teachers would, so there was all things like that. But I got seen by, my parents would have to come into the school, and there was I can't remember what they were, but there was someone that I would see at the end of the day, and my parents would sit in the room and I'd be there as well, and they would speak about how I was getting on at school, and it was someone that was helping me with certain things at school. Primary school, there was only a few little things, but secondary school was more of the thing where I did have a teaching assistant sit next to me in most classes.
Did you go to mainstream secondary school and primary school?
Yeah. For primary school and secondary school, both. But there was, like I said, in those schools I was sort of helped with certain things. In primary school there wasn't as much, and I think some people some of the teachers in secondary school, even though they did have some nice ones, I think they thought I was playing up in class or whatever, or I would get moaned at because I'd be fidgeting with something or not paying attention in a class, but without not really meaning to.
I get what you mean, it just kind of struggle through mainstream, and I know it's something that you talk about a lot, the kind of bullying that you've kind of had to endure and stuff like that. And I feel at primary school, children are a bit less, evil when it comes to bullying and stuff, but secondary school was a whole nother level of scary.
It was weird. It was only a few tiny things in primary school. Like a few name calling and sort of being chased by people in primary school, but it was when I got to secondary school that I realised it was a lot worse. Like people were incredibly horrible with how the things they would call you or sort of chase you around school, feeling like you couldn't really get away from it in secondary school.
Mm-hmm. How did you manage that? Like, how did you stay positive, and did you like have a like little group of friends you could rely on at all within secondary school?
So yeah, one of my best friends in secondary school, she has an autistic brother, so I think she sort of understood more with me and was also very helpful. And one of my best friends in secondary school was also autistic, so we also were able to sort of talk about. We spoke about movies a lot, so there was always people that were helping me in school. But there were times when like they weren't around at school, and it would be quite bad. But I think it got to one point which. I know it's never the answer to sort of fight back at bullies, but there was one that just kept bullying me for a very long time. And one day I just had enough and did hit them. But because of this, my school sort of knew that I'd been bullied by this person for ages, and they suspended them for 3 days. But because they didn't want the parents to moan, also suspended me. But my parents knew at that point that I'd been being bullied, so they didn't really care and just let me watch cartoons for those 3 days because of how things were. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, because I get what you mean. Like sometimes it's hard not to like snap and take action if something is, you know, just like boiling up underneath. And actually sometimes action is kind of the best way to feel better about it. Not that you should hit people.
But it was, yeah. But I think sometimes schools, it's weird. Sometimes schools don't really, even if you say to them, oh, I'm being bullied or whatever by this, and there was a lot of people being like, oh, it's just boys doing these types of things, and it's just how they are at school. But so they don't really understand that it's actually properly affecting someone in school, and they need to actually do something about it instead of just sort of just being like, oh, you can just deal with it yourself.
I mean, it's awful, isn't it? Because, you know, in that way you kind of want to actively avoid school if it's, you know, the centre of all your troubles, and it's, you know, something that can make you quite anxious to just know that you're going to come up against these bullies every time you walk in the school gates. Then, yeah, you're kind of going to want to avoid it.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird though, because after I'd finished secondary school, when I was one of like my second job was working in a supermarket, and I'd always have like people that would bully me in school come in as customers, but try and be friendly to me when I was working there. It's like, how have you just changed all of a sudden? You would bully me in school for how I was, but now all of a sudden, as soon as you see me working here, you're just going to be friendly to me. It really confused me.
It's almost like they forget the past, and it's like, no, hang on.
Yeah.
You know, we were both there. What's that about? That's so bad. So did you kind of like do your GCSEs and then like leave and go into like sort of like full-time jobs, or did you like stay till sixth form? What did you?
So I did my GCSEs, and then after that, I went for a year of just working in a supermarket. So I started to work in a supermarket when I was 15, and then 16. So I did work as a postman first. So there was like little jobs like that I would do, and then I decided to apply to work in a supermarket and worked there. But then after working for a supermarket for a year, I decided I wanted to go to college. So I applied to go to college, and then went to college for 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And what did you study at college?
So that was film studies.
Okay, cool.
In college. So I did 1 year of. It was weird because I didn't do too well in school. You had to do a year of another course first before you could go on to the actual 2 years of the film studies one. So I did a photography course first, and then after that went on to do film studies for 2 years.
Okay, that's interesting. Like, it must have been interesting to kind of like go from school like straight into like working life, and to see that sort of like dynamic, and like especially like I also worked in like a customer service role when I was like studying my GCSEs and like at sixth form, and it really like, I don't know if you found this like working in a supermarket, did you find that like you had to kind of develop like a sort of tough skin in terms of like, I don't know, just like the general public asking you stuff and trying to react like on a good level?
No, that is one thing I definitely noticed. There were times where I just have to sort of almost walk away because you'd have some really horrible customers, and when you'd never really had this type of thing before, like I'd already faced bullies in school, but then these people were like a whole another level of how they treat people that are trying to help in a supermarket. It's very strange.
Yeah, I don't really understand the whole like retail dynamic where like a customer can kind of like talk down to you and you're like, I'm a worker in this system. Like, I'm not responsible for this entire shop. Like, it's weird, like how they react to certain things. You're just like, I'm 16, 17. Like, I'm clearly, the lowest of the low here. Like, please don't attack me.
It used to be, so when I was working in a supermarket, I did look into certain things that would happen if a customer's having a go at you, or if you're working on the checkout and you don't want to serve that customer. Are you allowed to say you don't want to serve them? And I found out that yes, you are allowed to just say someone else can serve this person because of how rude they were being. And I have many times of that where people would be moaning at me for like another customer being slow in front of me or something that was in front of them. So they moaned about that. It's like, that's not my fault that this customer took a little while to pack their bag. So you'd have things like that, or they would moan that when I'd scanned something, it was a higher price than what it was on the shelf. Like I'm the one that had sorted out the prices around the shop.
Mm-hmm. I never understand that. It's like, I'm not responsible for this. Like I'm just trying to do the best I can. Oh, that's so annoying. So like going back to your kind of like college days and stuff like that, I'm always interested to know if people like the higher up they go within education, like did you disclose that you were autistic to your college? And if you did, were they helpful at all?
I disclosed on something, like if it was when I was doing certain projects, so they would give you a longer time to write projects, but I never really disclosed it to people that were in my class. There was only one person that knew, but then there was one time so people were talking about the book Mice and Men and decided to use the R word, and at that point I was just like, I'm not gonna have that said when I'm in college. I've already heard it enough in secondary school and primary school now, and I don't want to hear it now. So I was just like, don't use that word. And then I had to explain to people in college why. So I did disclose it. I always felt weird because it was sort of like a lot of masking in college, because I was already been through secondary school. And I was like, I don't know how to really act in college. I'm just going to have to see how other people are acting and almost act the same as them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so bad to hear. Like, number one, it shouldn't be your responsibility to have to like explain why certain words are bad. I mean, I'd like to think most people would know that, like the word that you said is not the right word to use ever. And the fact that, you had to speak up for yourself, that's quite a scary thing to do in like a college setting, because I know how, I don't know, judgmental other people can be. And the fact that you've had to deal with, those words and other words being said throughout primary and secondary school just shows how messed up the system really is, because no child should be having to hear those, those sorts of words day in, day out. I mean, no wonder that you didn't know whether you were masking and stuff like that. Like that's so bad.
Yeah, it was weird to go from, I thought when I started college, I was like, oh, it's going to be different. And then you still hear that. And only a little bit in that, it was just like, oh, is it just going to go back to how secondary school was? And that always worried me.
Mm-hmm. Did it sort of help that you had like the kind of passion for the course? Because I think like films and movies in general are like a special interest of yours. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I think because that's the thing. I was always pushing myself with the projects and just we'd get to do a lot of different genre films, but it was always genres I really liked, so it was quite exciting to get to do that. And one time we had to do a documentary, and we could do it about anything, and I'd been to Disneyland Paris at that point, so I just decided to take my camera with me and film Disneyland Paris and then make a documentary on that.
Awesome. That sounds so cool. Kind of like a sort of like vloggy kind of documentary. Yeah.
But then sort of put some other footage in there from Disney as well.
Mm-hmm. And did you manage to kind of like find a group within like college of like people that you could kind of not like get on with, but that you could kind of, I don't know, just like fit in with?
So yes, so a lot of people that some people that I already know, went to the college as well. So I'd really been into like hardcore music, and there was a hardcore music scene in the area that from where my college was. So I met people from that. So some of the people that I'd known from that were going to that college, so I could hang out with them at lunchtime. And then one of my really good friends who was in my class, we sort of found out that we were into the same things. So I started working on projects with them. Like every single film I would make would always be with them, because they were really into sort of weird stuff, and we would just make really silly comedy films that always sort of confused our class a bit, because they didn't really know what was going on with what we were making.
Excellent. And have you always found that like comedy has been like a kind of underlying sort of like passion of yours? Like, can you kind of like pinpoint when you kind of were sort of like naturally drawn to it at all?
Pretty much in secondary school, it would always be whenever because I did drama in secondary school, but when I did drama, it was always that I wanted sort of the plays that I would do with people to be comedy, and I always had fun writing that. And even when I was in primary school, I remember us going on one trip, and there was a talent show, and I remember with one friend just doing a comedy about two burglars going to the wrong house, something, and a cat attacking them. And so I've always been sort of doing comedy stuff.
Oh, that's so cool. So I'm really intrigued to know like when did you do like your first like gig? Like, was this something that you had to kind of like build up to slowly in terms of like confidence? Like, how do you start as a comedian? I'm so interested.
So I've been doing, like I said, I've been doing YouTube for a long time, and that was always doing a lot of sketches with my friend Steve. When I was in university, we started doing a lot of sketches together, and so I was writing a lot of comedy then at that point as well. And then I started going to, when I moved in with my girlfriend, we started going to a comedy night at the end of our road. And I was just watching that for a few weeks, got to know the person that ran the night. And then they just said to me, "Oh, why don't you come along and do a spot?" So I just decided to write a lot of random stuff. Most of my material was about Sesame Street and the Muppets. So I just went along one night and decided to do a set. And they were like, "Oh, you got 5 minutes." I think I did 2 minutes 20, and then panicked and was like, "That's all my material," and then just walked off stage.
Excellent. That sounds like what most people would just default to. Like, that's it. Thanks for coming. Oh, wow. And did you do you have to kind of how do you get it to stick in your head, like what you're going to do? Or do you have any like reference, like, I don't know, like a notebook or anything? Or do you just kind of have to memorize it?
So for my first probably 30 or so gigs, I used to take a notepad on stage, but it would just be like bullet points, and then I would just put that on a chair on the stage and look at that every now and again. But then what I realized in the end is that I'm already very good at remembering a lot of stuff, so I would just practice my set the day before or on the day of the gig and just keep practicing over and over again. And then what I do now is I do still practice, but I've also always got my notepad before a gig, so I'll write bullet points in there of certain words that I'm going to remember, and then go up and it's just all ingrained in my head now. I always worry, even when I write new sets, that I'm going to forget them, but I think because I think about it so much and I keep on repeating the same jokes over and over again to myself, that in the end I just remember it all.
Oh, that's good. I guess I don't know, just the fact that you're drilling it into yourself, and I guess you're like refining jokes as you go, they kind of stick a bit, maybe?
Yeah, no, definitely. There's still, the thing I'm happy about is there's sets that I've been doing for a long time that as soon as I do them now, I know them straight away. But there's sometimes, like, I'll do a new bit and I'll get a word around the wrong way or something. But now I just know, when I just keep doing it over and again, that I do get it perfect now.
That's great though. And I've seen like some of your videos where you're like, you don't like kind of do the whole like eye contact thing with the audience and stuff like that. I think like, I don't think many people like think about how scary it is to like be up on stage, let alone for an autistic person to think about, like, looking around the audience, like, and like having the timing of that. Like, I'd have no idea. Like, I don't even know how to look at one person, let alone like an audience. So it's so nice to see you talk about it.
I think my favourite thing is, I know, like, I hate bright lights, but the thing that I've realised with gigs that do have bright lights on stage, that if I do look out, I can't actually see the audience because of how bright the lights are now. So the audience think I'm making eye contact with them, but the whole time I am just pretty much just looking at the light in front of me because I can't see anyone.
Excellent. So the lights actually help you.
Yeah, somehow.
Nice. That's really good. I mean, it's so cool to like hear about your journey and, having the confidence to stand on a stage and, talk to people you don't know and to, get a reaction from people it sounds like such a scary thing, but it seems to me that it might not come to you quite naturally, but it comes across really naturally. And I think that comes across in your videos as well, is just your line delivery is just excellent. And I don't know, just the way you come across with like your just like one-liners or like sentences and stuff like that, I can see that, I don't know, it's something that's really like a passion for you.
I know, yeah, it definitely is. Because I am always like very, very anxious before going on stage. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm about 300 and something gigs in now, I still worry every single time I walk on stage. But as soon as I do just pick up the mic and talk, it all goes away somehow.
That's great, though. That's great that you found like the thing that you're really good at, because it's sometimes really hard to nail that. And oh my word, over 300 gigs is insane. That's a huge amount of people you must have performed to. Like, that's crazy.
Here's a lot.
And to win like the award that you won about the like Essex Comedian of the Year, like that's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. It was at a festival, and it was a guy that had seen me before, so he was like, "I'll come along and do it." And I thought, "Oh, I'm not going to do anything. Not going to do well." And then when they started calling out the names, I was like, "No, that's not right. They've called out the wrong name." And then I've got a little award now, so it's weird to think that I've won Essex Comedian of the Year 2019. It was very weird to me because there's always that thing in my mind that it's probably silly to think, but I also think a lot of the time, oh, I'm not as good as the other people that are on stage today. They were so much better than me. How did I win this award? Like, I always doubt myself a lot, and I wish I didn't.
No, I understand what you mean. Like, there's kind of that like sense of imposter syndrome, and you're like, everyone's doing better than me. But also, like, especially with your work, if you're constantly going over the same stuff and constantly hearing your own jokes, I guess sometimes you forget the audience are hearing it for the first time, even if you've heard it like a million times before, kind of thing. So that must be difficult to kind of like be like, this is the first time they're going to hear this.
It's the thing. There's been times where I've done material that I've been doing for ages, and it's done really, really well in places, and then I go somewhere new, and I start telling it, and it's a completely different crowd, and I'm like, has my material been bad this whole time, and has everyone else just been laughing because these people are completely silent right now? It's very confusing with how comedy works, that you'll have one night where a joke will do so well, and then you'll do that exact same joke at another gig, and there will just be silence.
Oh God, I can't imagine how that must be like crushing, but like you've got to carry on with your set, but you're like inside just like, oh God. Oh gosh, it sounds so like interesting, and I get what you mean, like it's hard not to compare yourself to others, but I think you really do stand out against the kind of, mix of people, and the fact that you're also, constantly pushing out this content online and trying to educate at the same time. I mean, the fact that you're educating and using your kind of medium of comedy at the same time, it's kind of like you've struck gold in terms of, getting people to like watch your stuff.
Yeah, that's what I like about it, that I'm still on stage being able to tell jokes, but add stuff into it at the same time that people, if they haven't ever seen or know an autistic person, that they're going to still learn something from my set. Even if they are just hearing a joke, they're still going to be like, oh, that's interesting to understand, because they haven't known about that before.
Yeah. And just to take even one thing away and just apply it in life would be a nice thing.
Definitely.
So I wanted to chat to you about your TikTok. So I know one of your videos recently has done ridiculously well, which is your handshake one.
Yeah.
And I can see you laughing because I know that you know which one it is. That has had like 1.5 million views.
I don't know how.
It is utterly brilliant, and I love how short and blunt it is and to the point. And I love it. And if anyone who's listening hasn't seen it, I'll like link it in the show notes or something so you can see it, because it is brilliant.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. I was just going to say, like, tell me about TikTok. Like, when did you start, and like, how are you managing with the whole like growth of it?
It's weird. Probably the end of last year, I was every now and again I used to just do stuff that wasn't about autism. It would just be like characters, just silly little characters that I would do, or little sketches. And then on the 5th of January of this year, I was like, I just want to make a new sketch and make it about autism and sort of the silly stereotypes. And it was the whole sketch about when people meet me, that they say all these things and compare me to like, oh, you can do computer hacking, or are you like Rain Man? So I decided to do a sketch like that, and then I uploaded that on the 5th of January, and then for some reason, just overnight, that one got really popular, and then I started gaining followers, and I thought, okay, I've found what I can do now, and then just started carrying on making content that was similar to that, and it's done very well since then.
It's done ridiculously well. You have over 60,000 followers, and you only started in January.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened.
That's mad. That's so cool though. Like, I love that. Like, you saw it was kind of popular, and then just like jumped on that as a kind of let's keep this ball rolling. Let's roll with it, because I don't know. It's a sort of like, I don't know, video format that I haven't really seen. Like, obviously I see like comedy and stuff on TikTok, but you don't see it like applied to people's lives necessarily. Yeah. And I think that's what's like unique about your sort of account.
Definitely. Yeah, it's just weird that I didn't think this would happen with it, because I had, on the 5th of January, I had 28 followers.
What?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it was like the next day, I was already on 300, and I was like, how has this happened?
I feel like people I've talked to before about TikTok are like, I don't know how this happened. It just came out of nowhere, and you just kind of have to like ride the wave of like, I don't know, whatever algorithm is out there. But obviously, it's about, having good quality content, obviously. But I think the more of a like back catalogue you build, I think like as soon as I found your work, I'm like, oh, I want to see more of you. And like you end up scrolling like through all your video kind of like content. So I think maybe a lot of people do that as well. Like they see one of your videos that's popular, and then they're like, oh, and it leads to your profile, and it leads to like, I don't know, falling down like a deep hole of just your content. I don't know if you get that with YouTube, like you fall down a kind of like...
Definitely. There's been times where I've just found one video.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, this video is about a seal or an owl. I'll just watch this one video, and all of a sudden the recommendations are like, oh, do you want to see more about this? And then I'll get to one video, I'll be like, this wasn't even related to what I started watching.
It's so dangerous, isn't it? You're just like, you lose hours, and you're like, how have I got here? I'm glad you find that too. It's not just me.
Yeah, no, it's not just you.
So do you have like, with TikTok, do you have the same approaches to like how you write your like sets and stuff? Do you sort of come up with ideas for TikTok? Like how do you kind of come about like with the video ideas?
So for the first little bit of TikTok, because I had decided after that one went well, I was going to make something every single day, because I was like, it was something that helped when I wasn't doing comedy gigs. I was like, I'm going to make sure I do something every day. And I'd already had a lot of like material that I'd written about autism on stage, and already some sort of sketches stuff. So I was like, oh, I should bring this over into a sketch instead. Because at first I was like, oh, I'll just upload it as the material that I've recorded. But then for some reason I found out that, yes, people do like watching some of those stand-up videos, but sometimes people prefer to see it in sort of a sketch format instead. So I decided to start doing it like that, and since then I've just sort of every single day or whatever, I'll get an idea, and I do write it down in the same notepad that I do write my comedy ideas in as well. Okay,
so you kind of almost like bounce ideas like between. Okay, well that's cool. That's a good way of doing it as well, because you can kind of use the content for both.
Well, it's been quite funny because at first I was taking stand-up stuff that I'd done and doing it and using that as a sketch. But now I found out there's stuff that I'll do on TikTok that when I did a gig 2 weeks ago, I was able to then take the video I'd done from TikTok and make it into a joke on stage.
Okay.
So it's sort of finding that as well.
Oh, that's clever. And like you can always use TikTok as a kind of like tester.
Yeah.
That's great. You're like, does this joke land well? Great.
Yeah, it's good for that.
Yeah, I didn't think of that as a kind of like, environment just to kind of pop it out there and see the reaction and then work it into your own set. That's a very smart move. So like, are you having to kind of like in terms of do you have a job at the moment? Are you having to juggle like the content creation and the gigs and stuff with that, or
I still I'm working. I work for a law firm, but I do their audiovisual, so it's a lot of me looking after Zoom calls and stuff, and currently still work from home. Okay. So that's been since March last year that I've been working from home. But I make the sketches after I finish work, or on my lunch break I'll film like a tiny little thing just because that's the time, and then I'll put it up later in the day. And my people from my work know about my TikTok, so there's that. They are happy. They're always asking me about it, of how I'm doing, and they're very supportive with it. They like to see what I do. They've come along and watched me do comedy. Came along to when I've done talks as well, because they want to learn about these things. So I still fit it. Yes, I fit it around work, and my work are always good with when I have gigs and that as well. If I ask, can I finish that because I've got to get to this gig, they're always very helpful with that.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that like they're on board as well.
Yeah.
And like especially for like a law firm as well, that's pretty cool. Like that they, are like willing to spend the time like coming to, talks and stuff like that, because like you said, it's good for them to, learn and educate themselves. But that's really great that they're like behind you. It makes all the difference. And also,
yeah, it's been really good, because my a lot of my previous jobs, when telling them about me being autistic, they didn't really want to listen. And with this job, they've like supported me right from the start. As soon as I had an interview there, they were like, "Oh, do you want to come and look at the building to get comfortable before we actually interview you?" So it's always been very good from the start.
Oh, amazing. It's just, the thing is, like, I always say to people, like, these, like, accommodations and stuff, like, we're not asking for the world, like, just to, like, look around the building or see where you're going to have an interview is, like, so much, like, I don't know, it's way more calming than turning up on the day and not knowing where to park and, like, stumbling into reception and being like, I'm glad that, like, from the start they were that kind of, like, open with you and were like, yeah.
Yeah, I never... It was for a long time that I hadn't... So I'd enclosed it in one job, but I did freelancing for a lot. And then there's one job where I didn't enclose it from the start. And then I did it like a month in, but they made the job worse from me telling them. So, yeah, it's not great how some places treat you.
I'm in that kind of same predicament of, like, my manager knows, but, like, I don't want to tell HR because, I don't know, like, in terms of, like, the culture of the company that I work in, like, news spreads, and just like you, it kind of like, I know it's going to change people's opinions, and actually I can do my job well, so why should it?
Yeah. Well, I was able to, my work, like last week, decided to do a Let's Talk About Disability webinar and have maybe one of the speakers. So it was everyone from a lot of people from my firm tuning in. So it made me happy that they want to hear about these types of things, and I felt actually comfortable, like, to tell people at my work.
That's really cool. Oh, I'm so glad that they're, like, open to that idea and that they had you on. That's so cool. Like, I think just the fact that they're giving you the opportunity to speak about it, and just, I don't know, just like a little bit more awareness as well. Like, you're not asking for the world. You're just like asking, like, just these little accommodations, and just so you know, like.
They've done everything for me right away. Like, I sit near the light switch at my desk, and there'd be times where I just have to say, "Oh, are you okay if I turn off the light?" And they're fine with it because it's just sort of above two of our desks.
Okay.
But people at my work are just happy straight away with it. They don't ask any questions like I've had with previous places before, being like, "Oh, I don't want the light being off," and getting angry about it. Like they don't get angry about it. They just be like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just come if we want it back on. Are you okay with switching it back on?" It's like they're always accommodating.
Oh, that's so nice. That's like so nice to hear. Like an actually accommodating workplace.
Yeah, it's the first time that it's probably happened to me. I've actually felt respected because one place I worked in, when I had the light taken out from above my desk, my manager decided to go and buy a desk lamp, which he then would shine in my direction every now and again.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds very like police interview style.
It was really weird. I'd be sat at my desk and all of a sudden I would just feel the light, just like he would bend it around, just shine it in my direction. I'm like, why is this happening?
What the hell? What is wrong with some people? Like, gee.
It doesn't make sense to why places are like this. In that same place, when I told them, they made me go to a health specialist to pretty much prove that I'm disabled.
Yeah, I feel like you mentioned this in a video. That's crazy.
Yeah, I had to go to a health specialist, and also it wasn't until my girlfriend reminded me the other day that they made me do an IQ test. And I'm just thinking, yeah, they made me do an IQ test. And I'm thinking, if I had thought about it properly more now, as soon as I said, you've got to take an IQ test, I probably would have left that job straight away. Like the more I know about how places are, it was like they wanted me to prove something to them. And that was one of the things they wanted me to do. It was like a really weird test by these people. They would sit you in a room and be like, oh, we're going to say numbers to you, and then we want you to say the numbers backwards, then we want you to do them in the correct order, and then it'd be like, now do them in odd or even order. And I'm like, why have I been sent this from a job from telling them?
What? I'm not even sure that's a legal...
Yeah, from my current job straight away. As soon as I just tell them, hey, I'm autistic, they're like, oh, we want to help you then. We don't want to send you somewhere to prove to us.
What? That is madness. Like the fact that you had to, I don't know, somehow prove your worth through an IQ test when you can show through your like qualifications and experience that you're, capable of the job. That's mad.
And the most confusing thing is seeing now this place that I worked at have now said they're like a disability inclusion place. Like they're doing a campaign for that. And I'm like, well, you could have you fooled me when I was working there that you
you're just like, let me come and speak. Like, what the hell? That is really messed up. And I would have been like you. I would have done it because you just don't know any. Like,
I really didn't know at that point. I was just like, okay, I want this job and I want to stay here. And then when I think about it now, I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I let a job make me have to prove that I'm disabled?
The thing is, until you like chat to your partner or like family, you don't know that, actually, that wasn't something that I actually needed to do, to prove myself. That is crazy.
Yeah, because it was the same job that when in the probation meeting, they told me that I asked too many questions. And like that was the one thing that I had to, So yeah, I don't know if you've seen that I did a joke about that. That was like the first time that I got a million views on TikTok talking about them saying that I asked too many questions. And my mum after that, so we sent an email to them being like, this is definitely discrimination. Like you send it to the HR of this company. And they're like, no, we're just doing all these things. But my manager decided to pick things from that week to be like, oh, you didn't know how to do this, even though it was something that I hadn't done in the job before. And then being told by operation, you asked too many questions. I was just like, I sent him a whole thing to be like, can you look at this? Because this tells you about autism. And he just didn't bother looking at it at all. It's just, it confuses me.
The amount of like adversity you have overcome, and just the amount of like through primary, through secondary, like through jobs, like just life in general, the amount of like, I don't know, the people you've encountered is honestly baffling because they're just, I don't understand how people don't have any form of awareness of, I'm not just, saying autism in general, but just, just accommodations and little things that might help. like how you've stayed so positive and, you know, carried on with your like your advocacy work is very I don't know, it's amazing to see. It's great that you're sticking at it despite all these ridiculous people.
Yeah, that's the thing that my mum's always said, is that even though these jobs were horrible, I've got material from it now, and I'm able to talk to people about it and be like, this is how you shouldn't treat people in jobs. So it's one thing that I've taken away from it, to be like, yes, it was horrible, but now I need to speak about these things and be like, this is not what you do.
That's great though. That's great that you've been able to like turn it into a positive for you and educate people. I mean, not great that you went through it in the first place, but like, yeah, that's crazy. And your mum is definitely right with that. Like, it is what you go through that kind of like shapes you and, you know, makes you potentially a better person and possibly even a better comedian. Just, you know, all the different stuff you can talk about and people be like, what? I cannot believe you went through that. Oh yeah, special interests. I want to ask you about special interests because we talked about like you having special interests in like film and movies and stuff, and I know you have like a few different like collections in terms of like DVDs, Blu-rays, and like a pop figure collection.
Yeah, certain different vinyl figures and that I collect.
Cool. So is this like been a kind of constant throughout your life, or do you feel like you can kind of like pinpoint when you started collecting?
It's probably mostly from. So first, when I sort of got into films, it was my dad and I renting movies from the video store, and then because of that renting, I would go there as well, and they'd allow you to buy some of the films. So it's probably from about the age of 11 or 12 where I started buying a lot of DVDs, and then when I was in university, you know, a lot of other people were spending their student loan on nights out. It was just me getting my student loan and going to HMV and buying as many Blu-rays and that as possible.
Excellent.
And then, just buying figures as well. And I just really like collecting films. I know a lot of people say, oh, but you've got Netflix and you've got these other streaming things that you can watch films on, but I sort of like having it physically.
I get that. It's not the same. Like, to have it in a library and be able to like physically pick it up and pick it out, that's quite a satisfying thing.
It definitely is.
And like, I've heard you talk about like different experiences in terms of like uni and stuff, and like you, like, I think it was just a video of you like showing an empty like nightclub and then you just being like, I wouldn't be there. Like I resonated with that so much. I was like, yes. I just wouldn't be in that environment. Like, you just would not see me out in the wild.
Because that was a thing with uni. My friends, when they were in uni, they knew people that ran nights at nightclubs, and they were like, hey, why don't you come along? And one time I went along. Just was like, maybe I'm at uni, I've got to try these things, and I went along, and it was just horrible right from the start. I remember standing in the middle of the room being like, this is just too much, I have no idea what's going on. Some guy started poking me in the back because he wanted a picture with his friends, and I was like, no, this is not something I want to be a part of.
It's such a weird environment, isn't it? Like, there's no real rules, and people just like, I don't know, brush up against each other and like touch each other in nightclubs, and I'm like, well, no.
That's not something.
No, why is that a thing in that environment? It isn't anywhere else.
I even hate when I even if I go to like live music gigs, I don't want to walk in with that crowd. I am the person that still like stands in the corner far away from everyone. Like, and everyone's like, oh, you want to stand at the front and watch the music? I'm like, no, I want to stand sort of close to the bar and away from everyone, because I know no one really goes there while the music's happening.
And I just feel like there's no escape from the front.
Yeah,
like,
definitely not.
You are hemmed in. Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's just too, I don't know. It's almost nice to have like, to be slightly removed from the situation, so you know that you can escape at any point should it be too much.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So do you have like any other kind of like special interests? Like, I feel like you've talked about like certain animals throughout this. Like, are you still into like owls and other creatures?
Yeah, I still into owls a lot. It was probably about 2 years ago. There was this website that I found called Explore, which had just, you watch live cams of animals, and I found out about the animal, the California condor. And it was when one of them had just been hatched when they were living in a tree, and the mum, Redwood Queen, had just had the baby in a co. And I got really interested in California condors at that point, and just was looking up everything about them, how they have a 9.5 foot wingspan.
What?
Yeah, so they are massive birds. I think the highest recorded wingspan was 10.5 from a California condor.
Wow. That's insane. How does something like that lift itself?
I don't know.
With something that heavy.
Yeah,
and
they are massive when they spread their wings out.
Oh, that's so cool. I love, like, I don't know, I always love, like, asking people about special interests, because, like, you can tell, like, when people, like, deep dive in on things, and those live cams sound so cool. Like,
there's something I always watch. It's so nice to watch them.
I guess also it's kind of quite therapeutic as well, just to, like, immerse yourself in something, you know, like, different, a different environment.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, really nice. There's a turkey one on there, which is all rescued turkeys, but recently there's groundhogs that have started living outside. So every now and again you'll be watching the turkeys, but then all of a sudden a groundhog will pop their head out of the ground.
Oh.
And they've just, it's like that. Well, they're not even meant to, like, because it's just meant to be the turkeys bit, but then all of a sudden you see them just running around, and it's really cute. There's a family of 5 of them.
Oh my God. This sounds like such wholesome content. I love it.
Yeah, if you go on explore.org, it's definitely worth watching, because they've got African cameras as well. So there's all the elephants and hippos.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know the site existed.
It's great.
Like, I've watched, like, live cams before of, like, penguins, because I always find them really fascinating. But I feel like I need to branch out a bit.
Yeah, definitely. This has every time I go on there, there's almost probably about 90 that are running at that point.
Wow.
So there's a lot on there.
Cool. Oh, cool. Okay, I'll link that down below as well if anyone's interested. I'm going to have to go through this podcast and be like, every time I've said I'll link that down below, I need to actually do that. It's a commitment. Oh, cool. It's so interesting to hear about people's special interests. Like, I find it really fascinating to, like, when people kind of, like, info dump on me on, like, you know, just, like, facts and stuff like that, because some of this stuff you never, like, really come across, and then it gets other people, like, fascinated. Do you find, like, you kind of inspire other people to, like, you know, look at cameras and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think I info dumped a lot on my girlfriend at the start of lockdown, though, because I really got into this game called Dreams, where you can create games, or you can play other stuff that people have created, and I really got into creating stuff on that. But I would always get excited every single day telling her about what I'd created, and I think there was a point where I was creating something every single day, and it got too much in the end.
And is your girlfriend much of a gamer? Like, would she know what you were talking about, or was she a bit like,
Yeah, a little bit. We mostly play a lot of horror games together. Like, ooh. She doesn't like to play them, but likes to watch me play horror games.
That's cool. I feel like I would be like that in terms of, like, I wouldn't be quick enough to play a game, but I'd be interested to watch, like, the gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like, I think that's why, you know, places like Twitch exist, because it is, like, genuinely interesting to watch other people play things.
Definitely. It's nice to watch that.
And do you, like, share any, like, special interests with her? Like, is there, like, other than, like, gaming and stuff like that, do you find that there's other things that you can kind of, like, I don't know, enjoy together?
So we're really into horror films.
Okay.
We go watch those a lot, but we're always trying to find new ones to watch. And before we met, she wouldn't really watch horror films because she was too sort of. But now she's really into them since we started watching them. I think she always thought that a lot of horror films are just creepy, but never realised that some of them can just be like comedy horror.
Mm-hmm. I see what you mean. Like, kind of like Shaun of the Dead style, kind of. Like that sort of like comedy, but like also quite scary and like gory.
Yeah.
I get you. I'd be like that though. I can side with your girlfriend that, like, I don't know, horror to me, like, I feel like if I'm home alone, I wouldn't watch it, but if I was like with a partner, I'd feel less.
There's been times where we've watched a horror film, and then in the middle of the night she'll like get up to go to the toilet, but she'll switch on every single light because it's like we've watched something that's too scary.
Just leaves a trail of light wherever she goes. I do not blame her one bit. That's so funny. Oh, well, that's nice. It's nice to hear that, like, you've kind of, like, got her into something and now she can't get out. So I can't believe we've been talking for, like, 50 minutes already. It's gone so quick.
It has.
I think we talked a little bit about the pandemic and you, like, working from home and stuff. Like, how have you found, like, lockdown and stuff like that? Were you able to, like, kind of, like, fill your time other than, like, working from home and stuff like that? Were you able to, like, I don't know, not, like, I don't know, find it? I know it was, like, a scary concept, but, like, how did you manage?
I didn't leave the house as much as I probably should have done. I only really left the house for like 10 minutes every now and again to go to the shop, but that would only be like one day a week. But there was a part where I was like, oh, maybe I should just actually get out and just go for a walk somewhere quiet. And I was still playing Pokemon Go. So I still like getting out of the house and playing that because you can just walk to certain places and collect Pokemon. But yeah, it was weird because with stand-up comedy as well, I did my I think it was one of my last gigs was in, I think, just the end of sort of just in March, sort of just at the start, just before everything sort of went a bit mad. So that, and then all of a sudden it just went to online gigs, and that was quite weird to do because you'd have some where people wouldn't even have the microphones on, so you wouldn't hear any laughter. So it would just be complete silence, and you wouldn't know if you were doing well or if you were doing terribly. So there was that weird point of stand-up where I was doing a lot of online gigs and trying to do as many as I could because they were still just, I'm at home, I may as well just try and get as many as I can.
Yeah, that's really scary, like to not know, like, do I need to pause a bit longer for laughter or is there no laughter? That's scary.
Yeah, it was very weird.
Yeah. And even just, like, I don't know, video conferences in general are awkward. So I can only imagine what it's like trying to, like, deliver lines and stuff, like fire it and lag and stuff like that.
That's the only thing I liked, that with this, I'd gone from doing live events in an office where I would have to walk up to people and put a microphone on them, which I'm still terrified of doing. And I always had to get someone else at work to walk over to them and be like, hey, our AV guy needs to mic you up. It wouldn't be me going up being like, I need to mic you up. So they'd all look at me and be like, how come he didn't come over and speak to us? So now I've been happy that I just have to be on Zoom and just say to someone, hey, you're on mute. Or unmute them. And it's just easier that way. They don't see me. It's just my voice speaking to them during the event. So it's a lot easier now.
Yeah, like someone I know who is a sound engineer, and he's like, I absolutely hate miking people up because you're in their personal space and you're like, you know, obviously having to like assess their clothing and like where you could like stick a mic or like, you know, just, it's just awkward. And I can totally appreciate how weird that must be to be like, hi, I kind of need to go up to you, I'm sorry.
The worst was when I used to, when I did freelancing, I worked at the Natural History Museum for a bit. And in there, they have the David Attenborough studio where people bring in things and do, like, there was someone speak about spiders before and showing certain things. But the microphones that you give them is like the Britney Spears microphone. And you'd have people come in and you'd be helping them try and put it on, but they'd put it upside down. I had one guy that was he poked himself in the eye because he was like, oh no, I can do it myself. And then he put it on wrong. I'm like, it's not even near your mouth. It's just poking you in the eye right now. No one is going to hear you. So you have to be the person that goes over and be like, please can I take this off and put it on you properly? And
please, let's start again. It's very
awkward.
Yeah, I bet. Like, especially, I don't know, because you're dealing with adults. Like, you don't want to be like, you're doing that wrong.
No.
It sounds like a childish thing to be like, no, you've done that wrong. Oh, that's so awkward. Yeah, I can appreciate that, like, the virtual environment is just like, you're on mute.
Yeah, it's a lot easier.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So I feel like we talked about your social media and stuff, but you haven't actually, like, I need you to say where people can find you and, like, what your username is and stuff. So do you want to, like, here is your chance to promote yourself.
So I'm mostly just Vegan Luke on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I used to do Twitch a little bit, but I haven't done it in a long time. But maybe at one point I'll do it again. But that's the things that I'm on most.
Nice. You've made that very simple as well, that you're the same everywhere.
Yeah.
I get so many people send me like separate links to places, and I'm like, oh no.
I'm quite happy that when I go on things that no one's picked to have that username. Like I haven't found anyone else that's used that username. I think the only one is Tumblr, and that's it.
Oh, you did well. You did well to like coin that across every social media platform. Also, I guess that's like good. Like, do you ever say at the end of gigs, like, find me online? Like, do you ever like, do people promote themselves as comedians?
I've only ever had like people have been like, oh, do you want to say it on, like there's some people that say it on stage, but I've never done that. But I've had people, I have business cards before. That's one thing that happened before this all happened. I decided to get over 500 business cards printed, and now I still just have a box of all of them. My TikTok's not on it or anything. It's just my Twitter and my email address. And that's it. No. I'm like, why did I get 500 printed? And I've only handed out probably 15 of them.
Oh, damn it. That is so annoying to like know you were going to use them and then like the world shuts down. Yeah. You're like, damn it. Also, I guess you can't be like, you know, like and subscribe like YouTube style, like at the end of a set. It's not like you're online and stuff. It would be a bit weird to be like that.
It would be easier if you could do that, but yeah, I think people would probably get a bit confused to what's going on.
I feel like you should just have like a little business, like, I don't know, like leaflet stand at the front that you bring on with you to be like, please take away with you.
Might have to start doing that now.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, well, I hope you can get back out to like, are you starting to go out to like gigs again? I feel like...
Yeah, I've actually got one tomorrow. It's weird. July's started, some venues. The one I have tomorrow is only allowed 20 people in the room, which is fine. So that's still an audience. There's times where I've done a gig to 2 people. So I should be happy about
20's good.
20 people. So yeah, there's still some returning. I think like the government is still letting gigs happen again, but there's still a lot of precautions on them of how many people you are allowed in a room or the social distancing. But I think it is going to start slowly coming back a tiny bit.
I wonder if you'll see like maybe like a difference in terms of like, you know, you've kind of like built up your online content whilst, you know, the world's been locked down. I wonder if you'll get like more requests like me wanting to talk to you, and like I wonder if you'll like see a like growth in terms of like, you know, real life kind of events and stuff like that as a result.
Yeah, it's weird. I've had people, when I was first getting sort of followers on TikTok, there was people being like, oh, can you tell us your dates of when you're doing gigs and that? And I'm like, well, there's nothing right now because it's all just gone. But now, when I have my link tree, I always put, if people do click it, next comedy gig at the top of it, just to see if people will come along. But then the MC of one of the gigs the other night was like, oh, this guy's just got big on TikTok, but none of his fans are here tonight. And then just brought me onto that. I was like, oh, great.
Oh, he really set you up for failure there, didn't he?
Yeah.
No one's in tonight, but he's famous online. Oh, damn it. You always need to supply him with like, you know, I don't know, like a couple of sentences to like, I don't know, just be like, you know, he's like world famous online. It's Luke. Like, I don't know. Like
that's what I'll have to start telling them that from now on. That's the only way they can introduce me.
Yeah, like I'm actually an influencer. I'd like you to know that. Always awkward, but never know. Oh, cool. It's been really like fun to chat to you, and
yeah, this has been great.
It's been really interesting to hear more about like your life and like behind the scenes, and it sounds like you're juggling so much in terms of like work and content creation and gigs and stuff. Yeah, I hope the in real life gigs go well, and
thank you.
You enjoy having an audience again. So yeah, I never know how to end podcasts. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm the same with I never know how to even say bye on a podcast.
Yeah. I just end up waving. I'm like, they can't see you. Always a bit awkward. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It means a lot.
Thank you very much for having me.